Hey everybody, I'm Sergio with the RideShare Guy. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Wheel with Alex from San Francisco. In fact, I met Alex in person when I was up in Oakland, San Francisco area a couple of weeks ago. And he's one of my veteran eyes and ears, and he has a interesting story which I'm going to let him talk about. So, with that said, Alex, welcome.
Thank you, Sergio. First of all, I want to say I'm your greatest fan and of your program, and you and Chris and everybody there. I always joke about it and say that Show Me the Money Club keeps me sane. So thank you for that.
Well, at least we can do something. But I also want to mention that Alex was one of the members of our town hall that we did about a year and change ago. And we've come a long way. The show has come a long way, but so his story. So, Alex, introduce yourself, what you did before, how long you've been a rideshare driver up in San Francisco, all that good stuff.
Well, first, I just wanted to say that it was really wonderful to be at that town hall representing San Francisco. It was one of the topic was 10 major markets. And also, you invited me to write some kind of guidance to San Francisco, future San Francisco drivers on your website, which was really great to do. Um, but to make a small correction, I am an adopted son in San Francisco. I've been here for 42 years,
Okay.
but I come originally from many call the most beautiful city in the world, topographically speaking, and that's Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And ended up in San Francisco eventually, since it's called the most beautiful city in the U.S. Topographically speaking. I feel like a very lucky guy to be, born and raised in Rio and doing all this driving here in San Francisco. I've been driving for a living since I arrived. Now it's over 42 years. So you can call me a real veteran, but rideshare, I started when I closed my business. I was in the publishing business for 35 years. And in 2018, that came to an end due to the internet and mobile devices. The last 5 years, I published a local real estate magazine. But when I arrived in San Francisco, I came here to play music. I went to Boston to study music when I was 17. I played the bass and then got a job to play in a Brazilian band here in 82. So crossed the country on a VW bus. And that VW bus got me my first job distributing what was at the time the first real estate magazine in San Francisco, because as you know, the VW bus, you can carry a lot of weight. And the publisher took a shine to me. He was a very important person, Randall McKendrick, that published the San Francisco Real Estate Forum. He helped me once he sold it to a major publisher to start my own distribution company to serve them. And eventually I distributed up to 20 different magazines. But the interesting thing for me is that I always drove in one way or another. So before I started my business in 91, I learned how to drive a bus from a livery company. That was a GMC double clutch manual bus. It was a lot of fun driving that thing. And it was mostly taking passengers to the airport, workers to their job sites, things like that. Eventually, I did some tourism with another company going to Highway 1 to Santa Barbara. But then my most fun job at the time, because I got that license, was driving a motorized cable car as a tour
Wow.
guide out of the Fisherman's Wharf. The one that I drove was not a replica, it was an original cable car. They were put out of service in 1914 and had a passenger clock, the bell, and I loved that job. It was so much fun.
So you have
But
driven
very
you have driven pretty much everything that a human can drive.
well, actually, to add to those, when I started my graffiti abatement business, which, because there was a lot of news racks with graffiti, I got a six-wheeler from the San Francisco Chronicle, our local newspaper, that was custom made to deliver in San Francisco with a short bed. That was a lot of fun too, because you could stop at the intersection without blocking traffic. And even though there was no longer the sign San Francisco Chronicle, the police thought I was part of the Chronicle. They let those drivers parked anywhere, and it was a fun vehicle. But another fun vehicle, right before I started driving for Uber, I bought an aftermarket three-wheeler meter-made Interceptor Go 4, and I had it for myself, and then it got for a few months a job as a courier. And that's actually one of the most amazing vehicles, because it's rated as a motorcycle, so you can park in 90 degrees, had a trunk, had a sound system, and that was a lot of fun too. So yes, including that vehicle, I drove everything under the sun, so to speak. But my workhorse is my Ford Fusion, which I bought new. At the time Ford offered 0% interest, so it was a good deal. It's a hybrid, and I got it black. I installed leather seats and molded, carpets on the rubber mats. So it's an ideal vehicle for rideshare. I've been doing rideshare since 2018, mostly Uber, and I'm getting close to 16,000 rides. I did stop during the pandemic, though.
Yeah, well, that's a lot, right? With stopping during the pandemic. And then, so you're obviously on both platforms, right? And then, I mean, Alex and I, we email quite a bit, and as I said, he said it himself. He did our guide for the RideShare Guy for new drivers to learn from him. And who better than him? 6-year veteran, tens of thousands of trips under his belt. We're going to talk a little bit about, besides his car and what his past is, why did you choose Uber, or did Uber choose you? I mean, how did that come about? You could have driven other things and to earn money.
Absolutely not. Actually, it was a lifesaver. You have to consider that I've been a business owner for, 27 years. I started the business in 91. And I was an independent contractor. Really, I had that experience of being the captain of your own ship. And I really didn't have any other skills other than what I did as a publisher and distributor. And at my age, I'm now 62, really there wasn't a lot of options out there. But the most important thing that Uber offered, well, first of all, I started at the end of the time when there was drivers were making a lot of money, but tons of drivers were making $12K in San Francisco a month on Uber X, but not pulling 7 days a week, but they were doing it. But the point is that the freedom to work whenever the spirit moves me, it's priceless. So I couldn't fathom punching a clock in any job, no matter how much it would pay.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I mean, 99% of drivers who I talk to, they rank flexibility and freedom as top of the list, why they've chosen to go to Uber route or Lyft route. So give me a typical day of Alex. So give us how many hours you drive. And I know you drive in San Francisco proper, and then it's a 7x7 city. It's really not too, not too far to drive, although I'm pretty sure they will offer you some nature hike trips to probably San Jose and all kinds of places. Give me your typical day, Alex's day. What hours you work, what shifts you work, or do you work when there is demand? I mean, look, you're the veteran. Give our audience some advice here.
For sure. Well, first of all, as you know, since the upfront, pricing algorithm, we got a easy 20% to 25% cut in what we were doing before, if not more, depending on how much the quests were and the bonuses and all of that. So in a sense, you lose that flexibility in terms of if you really want to make the most, you actually are bound by working certain hours
Yeah.
where it's busiest, and also you have to avoid rush hour traffic. Now, in San Francisco, I think it's a unique city because really my area of operation is a radius of less than 4 miles for the most part. And I say less because one side of the radius is the water, the bay.
Yeah.
And so that's where I do, it's it would be the northeastern quadrant of the city where we have what's called the downtown, where all the tourists are, and conventions and whatnot. Now, a lot changed since the pandemic. Of course, we have a lot less people coming to the city, but it's still very, very busy. Now, the most important thing for me in order to be really profitable is to maintain my diamond rating.
Okay.
And that gives me the ability that when I take a passenger to the airport, I jump the queue. I would never stay in that parking lot for 2 hours without knowing, where you're going. But when you a diamond, you get a ride right away. And interesting enough, the rides to the airport don't pay that well anymore. Maybe $15, but you get a lot of tips with airport rides. But once you leave the airport, Uber charge an extra a surcharge to the passenger, and so you get, if you come back to San Francisco, in general it's 24.
Yeah.
But ideally you want to do that early in the morning at 5 a.m. because the airlines start arriving, the flights, around 6 in the morning. So you have that short window before rush hour, which would be 6:45, 7:30ish. So in that window, you can actually go anywhere, to San Jose, Los Gatos, whatever, if it's a good paying ride. And in general, if you're lucky, you get a ride coming back to the airport. And so sometimes you do two of those. So that's the sweet spot. And you do get some rush hour traffic. You can't avoid that on one part of the day. And then I come back to the city and try to do the people who are commuting to work from the neighborhoods to downtown, and stay and maybe drive up to like maybe 10 o'clock, 9:40, 9:35, 10 o'clock a.m. and stop. Then take a break, take a nap, and then start again, ideally at 7 p.m. when there's no more traffic. Then again, you start getting some airport rides. And I try to stop by 11, because I don't like to get people who are drunk in the vehicle.
So you're doing a split shift, right? You're doing a lot of airport trips, taking advantage of your diamond status to get rematch in the mornings, avoid traffic, take your break, and then basically repeat the same strategy in late afternoon or at night, correct?
Now, to be honest with you, that is the goal. But, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. In the morning, it's hard for me to get up. So sometimes I'm not a morning person. Depending how filled is my bank account, I'll jump the morning shift. But if I want to make real money, and my goal is $300 a day, if I can do that. Well, actually, it's two goals. That is one. And the other is, right now, unfortunately, it's not something that I would wish, but it's the average is $30 an hour online. But when I hit the $40 an hour, sometimes I hit a $50, depending on tips, then I'm really happy. But you can't really count on that. So if to get the $300 a day guarantee, that's a 10-hour shift, 2 5-hour split. But sometimes you're lucky and you can get more in less time.
I mean, look, you've been doing it for so long. Obviously, you enjoy driving, right? I mean, you've been driving, as you said, for 40 years. So to me, I think Uber is perfect for you. I mean, you enjoy the driving. Obviously, you're personable. You like talking to people. I mean, what better way? Do it your way. Let's talk a little bit about earnings. I mean, you mentioned it real quick with upfront, right? Give us the good, the bad, the ugly here. In 2018, if just estimate, obviously, what you were making per hour, online hour, then obviously pandemic hit, everything died. And then coming back out of it, you probably killed it again because companies were offering a lot of incentives, right? And then upfront fare showed up. So give us those three books, let's say, that you've seen.
So back in 2018, I kid you not, there were drivers coming from Los Angeles to San Francisco. Before the pandemic, we had a couple of Starbucks that were 24 hours open. So that was a hub where, drivers could use the bathroom and sleep in their car. They would come for the weekends. And I remember that my goal back then was to make $500 in one day. It happened a few times, but then you have to pull the long shift.
Yeah.
Back then, I was doing both apps and two phones. And back then, Lyft allowed you to be 14 hours online. I don't know if they still do that, but it was 12 hours on Uber and 14. And the trick there was that if you took your breaks in between that 14-hour shift, you literally could be like on the clock for 20 hours because, you come back home, take a nap. As long as you don't go over 5 hours and 59 minutes break, you're still on that clock. And I was really taking advantage of that. But that's really hard to do, especially if you're doing 6 days a week. Then the pandemic hit. I was very much aware of the risks of driving with people without masks. I was giving masks like candy. I bought them by the hundreds, and I was giving everybody a mask that would take it. I had mine. I put the rain guards on my windows so I can crack them open, even in the rain, to have some air circulation. But the truth of the matter is that I realized it was not worth it before I was vaccinated. So Jake was a great resource in the RideShare Guy back in the day. He was guiding us how to navigate the unemployment, insurance in California. So kudos for Jake on that period. When I came back, it's when Uber, due to Proposition 22, wanted to reinforce their position that we were independent contractors, gave to Californians drivers the ability to see the destination. Yeah. And I thought that was the best thing under the sun. Yeah. And so I stopped doing Lyft because they weren't doing it. Yeah. And to tell you the truth, here we have so many tourists from all over the world, and they don't have the Lyft app. So Uber is definitely, to me, the one that I use. I only use Lyft when I use my destinations filters on Uber, and if I use both of them, or even the third as a diamond driver, then I'll use Lyft just to come back. Right. The other thing that happened was then the algorithm changed, right? And we learned all of that from you guys. And no longer we were connected to time and distance, and then suddenly all the new drivers, you told us about 5 million to 6.5 million drivers worldwide. The joke is that half of that 1.5 million comes to San Francisco.
Yeah, I doubt it, but it's probably so. But I mean, it feels like it in LA anyway. California really oversaturated. So we'll have like a few more minutes, but I want to touch upon something that we talked about when actually you were graciously giving me a ride back to the airport when I met you up in San Francisco, is about pragmatism, right? Look, there is good things about this gig. There's no doubt that there are. And there's also bad things about this gig, right? But then the companies are going to do what they're going to do. We can't control that. However, what we can control is what we do, right? And let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about you keeping your sanity through us, but I'm pretty sure you're fine on your own. You don't need us. But let's talk a little bit about pragmatism and what you would suggest or give advice to other drivers about that subject?
Yes. Unfortunately, I didn't turn off my calling. Let me turn that off. There
No,
we
you're
go.
fine. You're fine.
Okay. Okay. You are the ultimate pragmatist, Sergio, and I feel that I am one as well. And to me, the biggest issue always been unjust deactivations, and of course safety. People do get attacked. After all, I come from Rio. I know all about that. Uber
Yeah.
drivers in Brazil really have a very high risk involved. So not so much in San Francisco, but um, to me, the best thing that since sliced bread that Uber did, in my opinion, was allowing us to record the audio on the phone, which I do all the time. It stays encrypted in their website. And I also use the dash cam that you recommended.
Yeah.
I'm so bad remembering names.
Display right. Yeah.
Display right.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You have a help button that's connected
Yeah.
to my daughter if something happens.
Yeah.
And also, I would like to alert everybody out there in California, just putting a smiley on camera won't do it. You have to, by law, in order to have the audio part admitted in court, you have to say, smile. I use smile. Smile, you are an audio visual recording, because then the audio, and I have it clearly seen on each window. So I think is the most important thing, to have that to protect yourself from unjust deactivations.
Yeah. And so, I agree with you actually that Uber has done a couple of good things, but we do battle with these companies all the time, and we try to catch them at their shady tactics, but again, it's not all bad. Now, give me like a little flavor about your current earning situation, because look, you're a veteran, you should be earning more than anybody else in your city. You know the city like the back of your hand, and inside out, right? Are you still, happy with your earnings? Everybody wants to make more money these days, obviously, but are you okay with what you're making?
Well, I should say that I did retire early at 62, so I'm getting my Social Security pension. I bought a property to retire back home in Brazil, in the mountains of Brazil, and but look, yes, I am happy with what I make, because I drive very, very, very little miles.
Yeah.
Compared to, for example, LA, or even in the Bay Area. If you're in San Jose, you're driving tons of miles. I am driving so little that mileage is not a concern. I have now about 130K on my car, but I did some road trips with it, so it's not all rideshare. And so the thing that is kind of sad is that Uber, when it was created, tried to convince everybody that you don't need to pay tips anymore. And it broke the age-old, tradition to tip a taxi driver. And I have to say that tips, it's what kind of helped me go over the hump to get that $30 online or more. And the only way I get tipped in general is when the customer starts a conversation. They always come with that, traditional question, has it been busy today? So I answer, well, it's busy every day in San Francisco. I've been driving for a living in the city for 42 years, and I let it lay. And then they are curious and start asking me. In the end, I'm almost telling them my life story. And maybe 20% of my income comes from, not the income, but 20% of the passengers give me tips.
Yeah, that's about average. Actually, that's double the average. Usually it's about 10%. But look, you've done it for so long, right? And then for doing it 6 years, let's say 4 without the pandemic, you haven't put that many miles on your car, to be honest with you, because I know 6, 7 year drivers who have gone through 2 cars already, right? So
Yes.
I guess it's your city that you're driving in because you're just driving short distances. And
Hmm.
um, look, I know who you are, but I want you to give our audience not only rideshare advice. Well, first of all, let's talk a little bit about your retirement. I mean, you said you bought a property, right?
Hmm.
How much longer are you going to be driving? I mean, I don't know.
Another
You can
five,
drive probably forever, but nobody's
another
going to do
five
that. So is
years.
that your plan B? Just retire, go back to Brazil, watch
No,
football,
no, I
and
am
drink
actually
beer?
driving. I'm sorry, I had to interrupt. Another 5 years,
Okay,
because I'm going to be doing 6 months driving, 6 months there,
beautiful.
and on the 6 months, I'm planning to go over the limit they allow me to earn, which is this year 25K net.
Yeah,
So if you go over that, they hold 50 cents on the dollar of
yeah,
what you earn, and then give it back to you when you're 67.
yeah.
But it to me is good because then I can add to my pension down the road. The only trick is that I have to live that long and my car has to run that long, another
No, I
five
think you'll
years.
both be fine. I think you'll both be fine. I know you enough that you'll both be fine. And I think, that's very smart. Actually, that's great advice. If you take early retirement, you can drive, but you have to watch your limits. And, Alex is looking forward to visiting Brazil, 6 months here, 6 months there. I mean, that's beautiful. That's just as good as you can do it. And he worked his butt off though for 40 years, right? And then now he's going to enjoy the fruits of his labor. We have a couple of minutes remaining. I always ask every person that I interview, give me 2 things you like about rideshare and give me 2 things you dislike about rideshare.
Okay, let me grab a book. He This author that was on your show,
Okay.
Jeff
Jeff, yeah.
Hoenig, driving on the sunny side with 10,000 strangers. He gave me the greatest advice I would ever have. And interesting enough, he was in the same business I was. He
Yeah,
used
he
to
was.
distribute free publications.
He was.
And so I told him that I taught my daughter, she's going to turn 30 and this month, and always to look at the cup half full, because that is a choice. You have a choice. You can say it's half empty or half full. And he said, well, tell your daughter that the cup is always full because half of it is full of air. And boy, that is the
Yeah.
great advice you can give to anybody, because life is always going to throw you difficult moments, but it's your choice. Now, the other advice is, you have to enjoy driving. You
Yeah.
have to enjoy driving, and you have to be good at it. It's not easy to be a commercial driver. People don't give a lot of credit to how hard it is. I mean, imagine driving the articulated municipal buses.
Yeah.
I mean, day in and day out, how dangerous that is. And
Yeah.
same thing for taxi drivers, rideshare drivers, and then you go to ambulance drivers, police, fire drivers. You have to really have that kind of a sixth sense to drive, and some guardian angels helping you, that helps a lot. But
Yeah.
the other part is you have to also enjoy it. So the old adage is, if you do what you love, you don't work a day in a life. And I love driving in San Francisco, and it's fun meeting people. So the pay is not what we like,
Yeah.
but it's like you said, there's the two sides of the coin.
Yep. And I mean, look, I couldn't have said it better myself. He has an amazing attitude. He's got his rest of his, life figured out. He's going to go live in Brazil for 6 months and come back, do the ride sharing in the US for 6 months. I mean, my hat's off to you, Alex. I always appreciate your input when you send me emails. Again, here's Alex from San Francisco. If you guys ever up there, look him up. He knows how to get around. And I want to thank you for doing this with me. I wanted to do this for a while, and it happened to be right after our 100th episode last week. So, much appreciated. Muy obrigado. There you go.
Congratulations with your hundreds. My hat's off to you, Sergio. You know, you are our, hero out there. And I know that you have a lot of people around you helping you, and drivers that help you. But you have the ear, the pulse of what's happening out there nationwide in real time. So my advice to Uber and Lyft is listen to Sergio.
Thank you, man. Thank you. So again, thanks again for doing this. I will definitely, when I'm up in San Francisco again, I will definitely look you up, and this time we'll do our coffee that we had promised each other. So
yeah, let's go to Café Trieste in North Beach. It's my home away from home.
Sounds good. So thanks again, Alex. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Sergio.
Thanks for watching this episode of Behind the Wheel on the RideShare Guy. We've been doing these interviews for the past 6 months with very successful drivers from different cities around the nation. Click here for another episode. Make sure you subscribe and turn on all notifications for other episodes of Behind the Wheel, as well as amazing content on our channel.